Well, we are very lucky today. We snared a very popular person, someone who keeps being nominated by the Theater Circle people and keeps being cast in plays right and left. So, Will Bonfiglio, thank you for taking a few minutes out for Two on the Aisle to sit and talk with us a bit.
Thanks for having me.
And you have done some very strange things along the way here. I mean,
Yes.
Most recently, the Red Scare on Sunset.
Yes.
Which is from, I guess, his stuff is sort of descended from the theater of the ridiculous, isn't it? It was,
I think so a little, yeah, he does a lot of this.
But usually, he almost always plays the leading character and almost always in drag.
Right.
Which is what you were doing.
Yes.
What is that like?
It was a big learning curve for me, I think. I don't know, I thought I was mostly worried about like the text and creating the character and the role or whatever, but I think, it's easy to play it just as like impersonation or whatever you might want it to be, like in drag, but I think it's hard because at the same time you have to keep the story moving and you are a real character,
Right.
that you're supposed to be creating with these relationships and these feelings. So I think that extra layer was really difficult on top of like how to sit properly in a dress or run across the stage in high heels, which were two things I had no experience with. I think, there were a lot of moving pieces that I didn't think about in advance,
Yeah, because that kind of thing, I mean, it's camp, much of it.
Yeah.
Which means that in a way, you're not being realistic, and you're always sort of winking at the audience. But the difficult thing, it seems to me, is to find how the actor can wink at the audience with the character not winking at the audience.
Right. And I think finding, what that personality is and like what that relationship with the audience is a difficult line to toe. But I think one thing with his works that helps at least is that while it is very campy and like very zany and crazy, the majority of his works have these really like thick underlying themes that are these big kind of narratives of society and these critiques of it. And I think by laying a little bit into that and leaning into that, you can find that connection with the audience. You can find where to like have those tongue-in-cheek moments, but also keep the story moving so they can, kind of take away from the show what they think based on this kind of pointing and winking at these critical issues,
Yeah. I mean, that final moment is pretty devastating.
Yeah.
And she's testifying and naming names over
and
over.
I think having it as a man in drag lets that have a different taste and a different tone and a different meaning than if it was a woman cast in that role, right? And I think that helps let the audience almost sympathize, and I think they play in on the joke, but at the same time feel the same impact of what's happening in that moment.
Yeah.
Was it of any help at all to you to have played a little bit of Streisand in your previous role? You were in Buyer and Sell and won our Theater Circle Award for that. But you were, part of what you had to do was read lines spoken by Barbra Streisand. Did that help at all in playing a completely female character?
I think honestly it maybe like was a hindrance at times because I could feel in rehearsal there'd be some moments where like some Barbara would be coming through instead of Mary Dale, and so I think trying to suppress that tonal quality I gave to Barbara and her kind of cadence and things, and to have my own new one for this character was tricky, because I think it was easy. My body wanted to slide back into what it knew.
Oh, sure.
But what really struck me as interesting was the arc that the character had, and finally becoming so staunchly anti-communist in a way that was really kind of frightening, and yet it was still someone you had come to care about. So that was hard to process.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it exciting to do as an actor, because it wasn't just this one-dimensional camp drag queen, it was instead, you're playing a real role that has quite an arc and quite a journey, but on paper, when you look at like the poster of it or the cover, you're like, oh, there's no way there's this type of depth. But as an actor, it's exciting that you still get a journey and the heels to go with it and all these other challenges.
Yeah. But back to the buyer and seller for a moment. you were out there. Yes, you were sometimes doing Barbra Streisand, but you were the one doing it. I mean, you were all alone out there.
Yeah.
Any shaky moments or anything? Or?
On stage, not really. I don't know. You know, I like blacked out and it happened without me. So I don't know. But I think beforehand, you know, I would always feel the nerves just like right before going on, you know, sitting in the theater while Gary would be doing the curtain speech and just sitting back there waiting, knowing it's all on me to get this. And, you know, you're 100% accountable for if things go wrong. And I think trying to visualize like the end point each night or trying to, you know, benchmark where I am in the script, I think would lead to kind of a disaster. So I would try to just go out with, you know, just kind of an open, fresh mind and live the story as I'm telling it and use the audience and that energy I have with them to build that relationship, tell this story and not get lost in my head, because I think that's a really big trap. But I will say, I don't think it ever I thought it'd maybe get easier through the run, but like closing night, I think I was just as petrified as Yeah, I don't think it ever got better.
Well, and not just being alone, but it's a different kind of, I mean, we were saying earlier, it's a different kind of acting that you're doing. As you said, you didn't look for a character, you could use yourself.
Yeah, I tried to really use a lot of like, how would Will tell this story? Yeah. And I think that helped me ground it in something.
Yeah, and it was always telling a story, not reacting to another character.
Right. And even when you were having those scenes, you know, those moments with another character where you had to kind of flip between the two, you could have those little moments, but at the same time, it's like, how do you tuck those into this overall story that I'm telling?
Yeah.
Well, in addition to having won our Theater Circle Award for that production, you were nominated for 3 other ones in 2016, or for 2000 also, Old Wicked Songs, Grey Gardens, and As You Like It. That's a record for us, 4 nominations.
Yeah, you all were very generous.
Like I said, he's a hard man to get a hold of.
No, it was like a total
everybody
surprise.
Wants him, so,
it was such a surprise, such an honor. You know, I thought maybe there's a chance I could get nominated for Byron Seller, but then when like my friends were like, "Oh my God, you know, you look at the news," and I was surprised, you know, and I think it's awesome. It was such an incredible feeling, and I think. You know, it really helped me notice that achievement, you know, that I did do a lot of work that year. And I think reflecting back on it, it's a lot of work that I can be proud of, because a lot of those productions won for other things, you know, like a best ensemble or best show or things like that. So I think it really is a team effort. And I think reflecting on the chance to being a part of that is huge.
And I think one indication of how much it is true of you that you are a team player was the next thing we saw you in right after that ceremony, which was a fairly minor part in Never the Sinner. You were just part of the ensemble, and yet you gave that as much of a fine performance as in anything else.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, you know, I think all work is work, you know, and I think there are so many great artists in St. Louis that we all want to work with and projects we want to do that it's like every opportunity almost is one that you can get something out of, even if it is something like that, you know, where you are maybe just in the ensemble. But I got to work with a lot of the people I really admire. So that was an amazing opportunity. And I thought, you know, it's an interesting play, and the concept Rick had with everyone kind of being on stage at all time and having it very choreographed is something I really enjoy doing. So I thought it was a neat opportunity.
Well, and a very serious piece in contrast to the other two we've been talking about primarily. As was the Old Wicked Songs.
Yeah.
My goodness, you know, dealing with the Holocaust and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole different side, really, you know, of getting to play with these zany kind of one man, or this kind of playing a woman, you know, these different, very funny kind of broad comedies, to then going to something that is very specific and concise and very strong, you know, and I think that is something I find really a welcome and an exciting challenge.
And you had a very strong partner in that Old Wicked Song with Jerry Vogel.
Yeah, I mean, he he was amazing to work with. And I think the team we had between like the two of us and then like working with Tim, you know, who directed it, I thought he really helped both Jerry and I uncover a lot, both personally, but then also like together in scenes. There were just so many layers that Tim could see, you know, but maybe we couldn't in the moments. So I thought it was a good team.
He is a good director.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have coming up?
I'll be back at New Jewish Theater again with Tim Asself for New Jerusalem, which is a piece by David Ives, and it'll be going up in April.
So we have that to look forward to. Now, one of your other nominations was for As You Like It. Had you done much Shakespeare before? Or I suppose you went to college at Vanderbilt, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I did a few things there. Yeah. We had, you know, it was a very kind of more like text-based, drama-based, you know, school in terms, rather than like performance or practice. So we did do a lot of like Shakespeare study and text analysis and things like that. So I've studied it a lot and was in a production of Merchant of Venice my sophomore year, I think it was. And so I had done a little bit here and there, but this was, a really fun opportunity to do something totally different with Shakespeare.
Different approach.
Did you do any fiddling there? Because you did some fiddling in As You Like It.
Well, I took some fiddling classes at Vanderbilt, which is where I think, you know, when in Nashville, you need to take advantage of that and try to see what you can learn. So I thought that was a good opportunity to do that.
We could have lost you to the music industry. I
don't know if they wanted me.
We don't want to lose you, keep you here, your hometown, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
yeah.
Will Bonfiglio, thank you so much
Thanks for having me.
taking time to sit and talk with us. And
keep up the good work.
Indeed.
Thank you.
We'll look
Thank you, guys.
forward to Jerusalem.
Thanks.